So, what are the directive principles? So, first we will look at socialistic principles. What is meant by socialist principles? Why have we classified the directives, though no classification in the constitution? Why have we classified the directives into socialist, Gandhian and liberal intellectual? So first, why socialist principles? What is meant by it? Socialist principle means to enforce the social equality. Social means what? Caste, gender equality, caste equality, these and religious equality. So all these form the social dimension. Even transgender equality and even old age also, and even the physically disabled. So to ensure equality of all these principles come under socialist concept. So India starting in 1947 tried to be a socialist state. However, it peaked during the emergency and post-emergency. However, post 1991 liberalization, privatization and globalization, socialist principles have been diluted. So we are moving towards more and more liberal principles. So what are the socialist principles in Constitution? So Article 38 says to promote the welfare of people by securing a social order permeated by justice, social, economic and political, to minimize inequalities in income, status, facilities and opportunities. So such a big thing, I will make it simple for you. First thing is, so first part is to promote social order. Social order is, if you promote it, that is a directive. So the government has to promote a order in the society. That is the first directive under Article 38. And it has to ensure justice. What type of justice? Justice, nyaya. So social justice, that is all sections of society are given justice. I told you what are the sections which come under the term social. And economic justice and political justice, that has to be ensured. Next in under Article 38, you have to minimize the inequalities. The state has to minimize inequalities in income, status, facilities. So this is Article 38. So next comes Article 39. So Article 39 the state has to secure, the state has to give what all to the citizens? Right to livelihood. Livelihood means job. So in 2016-17 there was a leak of report by National Statistics Organization which said that, what did it say? The unemployment rate in India is the highest in 45 years. So unemployment has become a runaway unemployment. So what is the present unemployment rate? It is around 6%. So certain facts you can use in the written part of the competitive exams, that is in civil services, the mains examination. Okay. Next is livelihood securing, then equal distribution of material resources. I told you 39B is equal distribution of resources, environmental resources, economic resources, everything, all the resources equally distributed. That is the second thing. Third is prevention of concentration of wealth. 39C, I have already told. Equal pay for equal work for men and women. Preservation of health of workers. Workers' health have to be protected and children's have to be protected. And last one is 39F, healthy development of children. So these are the directives, social directives for the state. Next is, I told you, legal aid for the poor. Free legal aid for the poor is 39A. That is also a socialist principle. Next is right to work, right to work, to education and to public assistance in case of unemployment. Article 41, that is also a socialist principle, right to work. If you don't have work, government has to give you work. Manrega, right to education, right to care in the age of, in old age and sickness. So Vayo Shresth Samman Yojana, Rashtriya Vayo Yojana, Vayo Vandana Yojana. So Indira Gandhi National Pension Yojana. So all these are an outcome of this directive principle. Next is for Article 42 says human conditions of work. You have to give human conditions at work and also maternity relief. So Maternity Benefit Act. So the length of paid leave was increased from 12 weeks to 24 or 28. Just check it out. Maybe it is 24 weeks of paid leave. Okay. Next is Article 43, right to secure a living wage. So you have the right to secure a living wage. So there is a concept of minimum wage. Minimum wage, food, shelter and clothing. However, living wage is more than that, which says right to health, right to good quality of education, right to decent condition of living, leisure and so many other things. Living wage, minimum wage concepts are different. So that is also ensured in this. And Article 43A, what does it speak? 43A says that workers can participate in the management of industries. So these trade unions, workers can manage the industries. So management board, workers should have 1 or 2 representation. So last is under social principle is Article 47. What does it say? So the government has to increase the health and nutrition. So that is why this National Nutrition Mission and Poshan Abhiyan. So it stems out of this article. Next we come to Gandhian principles. So I would like to tell it again. There is no such division in Constitution. This is done by Lakshmikant in order to easily remember. Okay. Next comes Article 40 under Gandhian principles. So village panchayats. So whatever you see, the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment, Panchayati Raj, stems out of this article. Next comes Article 43, formation of cooperative societies, cottage industries. Cottage industries stem out of Article 43 and also management of them by cooperative basis. Next, cooperative societies, Article 43B. Recently, the Government of India formed Ministry of Cooperation, which is headed by, right now by whom? At the beginning, it was headed by Shri Amit Shah, our Honorable Home Minister. So, who is heading it now? Please check it out. Okay. Next comes your Article 43B. That is, I already told that. Next is Article 46. What is 46? 46 speaks about protection of deprived societies, deprived section of the society, that is scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other sections. So you have to promote the educational and economic interest of SCs, STs and other deprived sections under Article 46. Next comes your Article 47, where intoxicants have to be prohibited. So Supreme Court few years back banned alcohol in the highways. So it stems out of this article. Gujarat, there is a prohibition, total prohibition. It comes out of Article 47. Next comes your Article 48, prevention of slaughter of cows. So Cow Protection Act, UP, Haryana, Rajasthan, wherever it is being formed. So it has legal basis in the support by the directive principles in Article 48. Okay. Next we have liberal intellectual principles. So liberal intellectual principles means, so these are most progressive and modern ideas in the directive principles. So we will look at some of those. So uniform civil code. Uniform civil code means what? So we have separate laws for Hindus, Muslims, Christians and others for marriages. Hindus have Hindu Marriage Act, Muslims have their own code, own act, and intercaste marriages have Special Marriages Act, and every religion has their own marriage and inheritance divorce acts. So uniform civil code says you have to bring in a common act. So UCC, very very important, not yet enacted. Article 44, it's a liberal intellectual principle. Next comes Article 45. So right to education. So it's appendage. So every parent has to, so the state has to give. So what the state has to give? So the state have to give early childhood care and education until age 6. Until age 6. Till age 6, the government has to give free early child care education. New education policy, new curriculum. What is the division? 3 plus 5, 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. What is the division? I forgot the division. Please look at the division. New education policy 2020 is very very important. So the entire curriculum is divided, the entire progress is divided as 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 or something like that. Primary education, secondary education, higher education, higher secondary education. 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 or something along those lines. So that is where your early childhood education. So next, organizing agriculture and animal husbandry on scientific lines. Article 48. 48A, protection of environment. All your Environmental Act. National Action Plan on Climate Change 2008 stems from this. National Wildlife Action Plan 2016 stems from this. Project Tiger, Project Elephant stems from this. Okay. Next is to protect monuments, places and objects of historical importance. So historical importance. So your Amsar Act. What is Amsar Act? Ancient Monuments and Ancient Architecture Protection Act. It has its origin in Article 49. So next we have Article 50, separation of judiciary and executive. Judiciary and executive separation means what? Earlier, before enactment of Criminal Procedure Code, CRPC, so the district magistrate, DC, used to be a judge also. He used to dispose criminal cases also. However, after Criminal Procedure Code, CRPC was enacted. After CRPC was enacted, so the judicial function is taken out of the collector and given to judicial magistrate. So that is Article 50. Next is Article 51, which says protect international peace and security. International peace and security. Your international peacekeeping force, IPKF, India's support to this, and India's support to non-alignment movement, NAM, India's support to nuclear denuclearization, India's support to non-proliferation, and all those things stems out of this. Okay. So next is new directives. We have added certain new directives. What are the new directives? To Article 39, healthy development of children, was added during 42nd Amendment Act under the tenure of Srimati Indira Gandhi ji. Emergency. And Article 39A, equal justice, free legal aid, that was also added during 42nd Act. And promotion of allowing workers to participate in the management of industry, 43A, during 42nd Act, then 42nd Amendment Act, then we have Environmental Protection, I told, 48A during 42nd Amendment Act. Why then? Because 1972 there was Stockholm Environment Conference. Stockholm Environment Conference 1972. So then only we will see various Air Act, Water Protection Act, Water Cess Act, so many things gets started in 1974. So environmental revolution in India. Okay. So next we have, so later on we have 21A, Article 21A was added, right to education, during 2002 Constitutional Amendment, and 97th Amendment Act 2011 added 43B. 43B, what does it say? Promotion of cooperative societies. So cooperative societies were given constitutional backing. Next, we will discuss enforcement and implementation. So enforcement and implementation. So how do we enforce? So the government can make statutory laws to implement the directive principles. So what are the, and how is it enforced and implemented? So there are various initiatives taken by the governments at various times. So some of the initiatives are, the Planning Commission was established in 1950, Niti Aayog was established. Then we have Land Reform Acts were passed by various state governments, and we have Minimum Wages Act, Child Labour Protection Act, and we have Maternity Benefit Act, and we have to provide free legal aid, we have Legal Services Authority Act 1987, and we have Khadi and Village Industries Board were formed, and so this Cow Protection Act being formed, being enacted by various state governments, and also prohibition of alcohol, and we have this Community Development Program, Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Wildlife Protection Act, Forest Conservation Act, and various other things were enacted. Even for example, I told Amasar Act was enacted, and EWS reservation, OBC reservation, SC/ST reservation, everything stems out of directive principles. So there is so every act, every policy which is made by government can be linked to the directive principles directly or indirectly, because this is the blueprint or framework for the government to frame its policy or acts. Okay. Next. So we have seen enforcement and implementation. Okay. What is the significance? Utility and significance. Okay. We'll discuss it later. First we will see criticism. So first criticism is there is no legal force. It cannot be legally implemented. Next criticism is they are illogically arranged. So Lakshmikant arranges it logically. So in the constitution they are illogically arranged. So next is most of them are conservative. The criticism is most of them are conservative. And fourth criticism is it gives rise to constitutional conflict. What is a constitutional conflict? There is a conflict between fundamental rights and directive principles. Okay. So coming to utility. Does it have any utility? So even in the Constitutional Assembly there was so much debate whether to include directive principles in the Constitution. So certain section said yes, we have to include it because it acts like a lighthouse or a beacon light for the government to proceed. However, other section said no, we don't need it because it's a superfluous. So it curbs the freedom of the government. However, it does have certain utility. So what are the utility? So it facilitates the stability and continuity of policies. Every government has to adhere to directive principles. Even Supreme Court can make use of directive principles while deciding the legality. Certain acts can be treated with lenience when it says that it gives rise to or it gives effect to certain directive principles. So it does have utility in the larger framework of Indian polity. So next is the position with respect to fundamental rights. This is the most important section. So which is the act? Minerva, which is the case? Minerva Mills case. So differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. So the fundamental rights prohibit the state to do certain things. However, this is directive principles allow or push the state to do positive things. Next is fundamental rights are justiciable, whereas directive principles are non-just. That is, the court cannot enforce this. So they are political. These are economic and social. That is, if DPSPs are economic and social. So the fundamental rights promote individual welfare, whereas this promotes societal welfare. Okay. So these are certain differences between the fundamental rights and directive principles. So there was a conflict. So the court said, so what used to happen to give rise to give effect to certain directive principles? Every time government used to tweak the fundamental rights. So it may be Shankari Prasad case, Champakam Dorairajan case, Gopalan case. All these cases, important cases, you should know. So in Lakshmikant, important cases, certain section is given. So please keep revising it. So in Gopalan case and even in case 1 and the Bharti case. So ultimately in Minerva Mills case, what the court said, so what the government used to do to give effect to these directive principles, fundamental rights were always tweaked by constitutional amendment. So the court took a lenient view in case 1 and the Bharti case and said, okay, to give effect to certain directive principles, you can tweak the fundamental rights. However, what the government did, so it changed it to saying that to give effect to all directive principles, we can tweak any fundamental rights. That is what the constitutional amendment done by the government. So again, case was filed in Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said, no, only few directive principles can be affected by tweaking the constitution. Not all fundamental rights can be violated for giving effect to the directive principles. That is when emerges the concept of basic structure in Keshwan and the Bharti case, 1973. Yesterday also I spoke about this important case. Then in Minerva Mills case, 1980 Minerva Mills case, the Supreme Court says that Indian Constitution is formed on the bedrock of fundamental rights and directive principles. So both are equal. It's like two wheels of a cycle. So without one wheel moving, another wheel cannot, in a single wheel, you cannot move forward. So fundamental rights and directive principles both are equally important. So this is all about your fundamental rights. As I tell every time, I will tell you the important articles at the end of each class. That is, now the article I have mentioned here 37 to 51 about the directive principles. Okay. Now, as a last section, we will speak about the fundamental duties. Okay. This is your fundamental duties. So, what do you mean by fundamental duties? Fundamental. Fundamental means basic. It is fundamental to your existence. It is necessary to your existence, quintessential for your existence. So, fundamental duties. So, did the original constitution have fundamental duties in it? No. Original constitution did not have fundamental duties in it. When was it included in the constitution? So, it was included in 1976, 42nd Amendment Act, mini constitution, enacted during emergency by whom? So, the Iron Lady of India, Srimati Indira Gandhi ji, one of the blunders in Indian political history. What is the blunder? It is the emergency. So, open for criticism from all possible angles. So, what is the source origin of fundamental duties? We have taken the fundamental duties from which constitution? Fundamental duties were taken from USSR, erstwhile USSR. So, which country is now USSR? Russia forms the major part. Soviet Union, USSR is Soviet Union. That is where we have taken the fundamental duties from. So, also it has the origin in, it has an indigenous origin. So, we have Swaran Singh Committee. Swaran Singh Committee was enacted by it was formed by Srimati Indira Gandhi ji, and it gave a series of recommendations. So, those recommendations found its concrete form in the form of fundamental duties. So, fundamental duties form part of 4A. So, it is appended to part 4. Part 4, it is appended. So, what is part 4? It is directive principles. Part 4A is your fundamental duties. Part 3 is your fundamental rights. So, parts are very, very important. So, what is the article number for fundamental duties? There is only one article. That article number is Article 51A. Very, very important. So, what are the fundamental duties? I am going to read out the fundamental duties for you. So, these are the duties which we as a citizen. So, what was the recommendation of the Swaran Singh Committee? So, during emergency, there was no responsibility on the part of citizens. So, citizens have to behave. In order to reap the benefits of rights, they have to perform certain duties. So, what are the duties? So, I am going to read out the duties in the Constitution: to abide by the Constitution and respect the national institutions. So, national flag and national anthem is your first duty. To cherish the noble ideals of national struggle and freedom is your second duty. The third duty is to protect sovereignty and unity and integrity of India is your third duty. To defend the country and render national service. So, rendering national service when called upon is your fourth duty. Fifth duty is to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood and religious, linguistic, and regional and sectional diversities. Transcending all these boundaries, if you promote harmony among Indians, that is also a fundamental duty. To preserve the rich heritage. If you preserve the rich heritage of India, that is also a fundamental duty. So, to improve the natural environment is your fundamental duty. And also to develop scientific temper, humanism is also fundamental duty. To object from violence and destruction of public property is your fundamental duty. To strive for excellence, to achieve excellence in all fields. You clear IAS exam, so that is achieving excellence. So, you have abided by the fundamental duty. And also to provide opportunities of education. So, this is important. This was added by 2002 Act. 2002 Constitutional Amendment Act. So every parent has to educate his children up to from age 6 to age 14. It is a fundamental duty. So I have told the list of fundamental duties. Surprisingly, right to vote is not a fundamental duty. Right to pay taxes is also not a fundamental duty. So those are not included. So what are the features? So like directive principles, fundamental duties are also not enforceable. They cannot be enforced, legally enforced. Most of them are moral duties. So that is also moral duty. So they refer to the values we Indians cherish as a group of citizens. So fundamental duties does not extend to everyone. It is only limited to Indian citizens. Foreigners need not follow it. So there are also certain criticisms. So criticism of fundamental duties. So one is it is not legally enforceable. That is one criticism, and most of them are called as moral aspirations. They are not on ground realities. That is another criticism. And also another criticism is right to vote, right to tax, and important things are not included. And also they form a subcategory of fundamental rights. So it doesn't have as importance as fundamental rights. That is also a criticism. Okay. Next comes what is the significance of these fundamental duties. So it reminds us of our duties while enjoying our rights, as I said. Then also they act as warning to anti-national active elements like terrorists and all. So they act as a warning. Then they act as an inspiration, source of inspiration to so many people. So we every day morning we wake up and sing national anthem. It inspires the patriotism within us. So that is one of the significance. Okay. Next, last but not the least. So these fundamental duties were reviewed by Verma Committee, Justice Verma Committee. Very, very important. So they said whether fundamental duties should continue being a part of the Constitution. They said yes, it has to continue, and they said Prevention of National Honors Act. So many acts derive their source in the fundamental duties. One of the act is Prevention of Insults to National Honors Act. Even this Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Representation of People Act, Wildlife Protection Act have their source in the fundamental duties. So this concludes your chapter on fundamental duties. So this is your article 4A. So most of the concepts is taken out from Lakshmikant, and I am going to add current affairs here and there. Why I am not doing anything extra or special? You might expect me to do something extraordinary in polity. However, I am here to make you fetch marks, not to show my proficiency or panditya. Okay? So if you just study Lakshmikant, that is more than sufficient. That is what I am going to teach. So I am going to teach only from Lakshmikant, because that is where questions come from, and that is the sole source from rank 1 to rank 800 in UPSC or State Civil Services examination. I don't want to mesmerize you by telling so many alien foreign concepts, so which might not be required to you for the exams. You will feel happy that I told so many things which is not available anywhere, not available in the book. However, those things don't come in the exam. What comes in the exam is what is there in Lakshmikant. So that is why I limit my classes only to the concepts in Lakshmikant.